What's up, Kate? How are you doing today?
I'm good, Drew, fighting some allergies, but overall doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Hanging in there and resting up and recovering from the long extended weekend. I can tell you getting to work today was a little difficult. I
Yes.
wanted another day
Yeah,
off.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, happy Memorial Day to everybody. I
Absolutely.
hope you guys took the extra day to, you know, remember why it is we celebrate, the freedom that we have as Americans. It's one and only. So, um,
Absolutely.
it's a beautiful thing to celebrate. So, um,
Absolutely.
Drew, I know we're going to be talking today. We wanted to discuss the importance of social media marketing, the importance of branding, the importance of being online and having an online presence. And I feel as though never before have we been in a society where it's been more important and more crucial to be online, right? And to have that presence than today because it's
Hmm.
so freaking accessible. And so this month's speaker here on Friday is someone who's optimized that extremely well. He has a YouTube channel, over 600,000 subscribers, and he's created multiple facets of his business based off of his following and his subscriber chain. So we just want to encourage you guys as we walk through this video today, keep in mind that this month's guest speaker on Friday, 5:30 to 8:30 at the U of A Sands Club, is a G at what we're talking about. So he's figured it out. Drew and I have not figured this out. So we're just speculating. He's actually done it. And so if you guys want some really good value for free and good people, come out Friday, 5:30 to 8:30 at the Sands. Dan the Fireman is his kind of stage name, if you will. It's his branding name. He used to be a fireman, but now all he does is YouTube content and social media. And again, he's created multiple facets of his business from his following that he's been able to optimize and create into a full-time gig. And so he's done extremely well for himself. And so we just want to stress the fact that he has a really big following on social media, and that's what he does full time now. So he's no longer a firefighter, even though that's his brand name, but he just does social media content. So if that is something that you guys want to do better at in your business, and let's be honest, anyone can do better at it, even if you don't do social media, right? So I know, for an example, Andrew Dobbins, he was one of our like two speakers ago. He runs a very, very successful like HVAC, solar, and plumbing company here in town. And he asked me personally for Dan the fireman's contact info because he wanted to connect with Dan to figure out how can I optimize what it is I'm already doing with my marketing and social media content. Guys, just to give you perspective, Andrew, I think his goal was 30 or 40 million this year. So this guy is freaking crushing it. Multiple figure type business guy, right? And he is asking this guy for help. And so Andrew is already a guy who's doing a lot of marketing channels. He's on the radio, he's on TV commercials, he partners with the U of A on marketing content. So, like, you would look at this guy and be like, he doesn't need help, but he's still reaching out directly to Dan the fireman, who's our guest speaker this month, for advice on social media content. So, regardless of where you're at, how you market or whatever, there's something to learn. There's something to learn. And Dan can teach you that in this month's meetup. So, with that in mind, Drew, we can go over our metrics, but I feel like that was a really good intro, just straight into social
Hmm.
media marketing. And I know today we wanted to discuss, the importance of marketing. So, Drew, before I let you kind of give your 2 cents, I want to preface this video with a story from Alex Hormozy. Okay. And Alex Hormozy, if you don't know, just look him up. He's massive. He's a massive influencer, business person. He owns acquisition.com. He's written a lot of books, $100 million leads, among others. He's very influential and very big in the business world, all over social media. Like, you can't miss this guy. He wears like nose tape. He's freaking jacked. Like, he's got massive freaking arms. He wears like jean shorts with a flannel and a hat. Like you can't miss the guy, right? So anyway, I was listening to a story one time of his, and I think it was a podcast specifically that he made around social media and the importance of it. And so if you are a business person, you own a business and you do any sort of marketing, this is for you. Okay. This is for you. And this is what he said. For so long, he grew his businesses and never got into social media because he thought it was a waste of time. So this is Alex Hormozy speaking. He's like, it's a waste of time. I can grow my businesses without social media. There's no point to it. I don't want to be on camera, this, that, the other. So he came up with every excuse in the book, right? And then he worked really hard for 10 years and grew a business. I think he said that was worth around 100 million, or they were doing like 100 million a year, right? And he was proud, right? He was like, man, that's pretty good. But then he saw one day, this was a few years back, but I'm sure everyone remembers when the news came out that Kylie Jenner, right? She hit $1 billion in her business and she was worth 1 billion for her beauty brand, And this news came out and everyone remembers it. This was like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe longer. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, Kylie Jenner, she's 21 years old. She hit $1 billion net worth, whatever. And Alex says, dude, I've worked 10 freaking years for just 100 million, and this little like 21-year-old hit 1 billion within like a year of coming out with a brand, And it just hit him. And the only reason she was able to do that was because of her publicity, her following, her subscriber base, right? She is so freaking popular. She could sell freaking socks and probably, sell $1 billion worth of socks simply based on the fact that she has a following that trusts her, likes her, wants to be like her, and will value her, right? Regardless of what she promotes, for the most part, right? There's obviously caveats to that, but for the most part. And so Alex sat there and he started kind of asking himself, he's like, that's the reason, right? It's like, you don't have to be a smart business person necessarily. You don't have to, you know, come up with the next best thing. You just have to have a following. And so after he had that realization, that's when he started pumping out content. And this guy pumps out content. Like you can't even be on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, anything like that without seeing this guy. Like he's out there. And so anyway, that was the transition point for him. That was his kind of light bulb moment when he said, holy crap, I'm doing this all wrong. He was looking at social media as a negative, when in actuality, when optimized and done correctly, will exponentially grow your business and make you hit metrics you would never even imagine, simply based on the fact that you create a follower base that is absolutely in love with you and obsessed with you, right? And so, anyway, I wanted to preface our conversation with that story as we discuss the importance of kind of social media, content marketing, that the other. Um, Drew, I know we've talked about it a lot, just like between you and I personally, of like wanting to create more content. And we've had facets, I think, in both of our businesses throughout this point to where there were seasons that we were maybe more focused on social media, then we've kind of gotten out of it and, back in, back and forth. What do you see as, the importance of social media and kind of marketing and branding, being that we have access to the internet now? Like this has never been a thing in history, right? But now you can have a platform and basically share your voice and your ideas with everyone out there. Like how important, eh, as far as like how long this will last, do you see like social media being?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, honestly, first off, I want to say I love your story, and I think it's really funny because I agree, but I think it's really funny because you did something, and I don't even know that you realized that you did it when it came to branding that I want to point out. So Alex Hermosi has such a strong brand as an individual that you described him as the man with nose tape and a flannel that's super jacked. And I guarantee you that if you go to any of his videos or any of his posts, he's going to be wearing a flannel. He's super jacked and he's got that nose tape.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he has built such a strong brand around the fact that he looks a certain way, he acts a certain way, he talks about certain things, that even then he himself is his own brand. I follow this other guy on YouTube named Mr. Ballin, and he tells like these scary stories. Same thing, flannel on, black t-shirt, backwards hat, every single video. It doesn't matter. He always has that. And it's just that's his brand. That's who
That's
he is.
awesome.
And so I think like it's super cool that I don't even know if you intentionally said that, if you meant to say that, but you just pointed out exactly, I'm sure, one of Alex Hermosi's brand tactics of looking and acting a certain way and being uniform throughout the entire process. So you see, oh, red flannel, you're like, oh, you think Alex Hermosi. So super unique there. But I think, I agree 1,000% when it comes to social media, right? Like when I was growing up in social media, before social media existed, the way to get in front of a mass amount of people in a relatively quick period of time, there was really three ways, right? It was internet through advertising, it was TV commercials, as well as radio, right? But social media allows the platform of so much more. You have such a greater reach of people. You can reach millions of people in a day if they're following you by creating a follow base. So they're able to, rather than just throwing a TV on a commercial and hope that someone that might be a potential client for you sees it and happens to be on TV at the exact time that your commercial hits. The cool thing about social media is it's curated in such a way that if I follow you and you post something, I'm going to see it. And I like you, I trust you, and I already am interested in what you have to say. And I think social media just gives you that funneled approach. We always say, at least I know I say it all the time, you don't want to dig a mile wide and an inch deep. You want to dig an inch wide and a mile deep. You kind of flip it, right? That allows you that opportunity to focus on that inch wide and a mile deep, that niched type group of people. And it all starts with a strong brand, right? Sharing things positively that actually makes sense, being a trustworthy and likable person. And the best way to do that at a massive scale very quickly is through the use of social media. And so I think personally, like, yeah, I haven't been the best at it and I've got excuses galore, right? And I think everybody else does, like, oh, it's so difficult to post because I have all of these strings attached to everything I post. And oh, JP Morgan has all these guidelines that I have to follow, so I can't post, or, oh, I just don't have time for it, or I can't take a good picture, or what am I going to sell, or how can I get people to like me, right? That's those are excuses. But what you're doing is, like you said, exactly that. You limiting your ability to grow and scale to the size of a Kylie Jenner, and you'll always be stuck at the size of an Alex Ramosi. And when you think about that story and you think, 100 million to a billion, that's a tenfold. I mean, that's 10 times the amount. And granted, when you get to those numbers, it's kind of unreasonable, but like to picture and imagine because it
Yeah.
becomes so out of touch. But $100,000 versus $1 million, there's a very big difference between those two numbers. And that's the equivalent of what they were, but on a scale much greater than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it is interesting. And one key point I forgot to mention in that story, well, in the podcast, is that Alex Hormozi describes that social media is the new oil, right? So back in, I don't even know, I'm gonna totally misplace the number, but early on, right, in the early days, like early 1900s, the game of money was really made in oil. And so, whoever controlled the oil made the most money. So, like the Rockefellers or whatever, all those like stupid old rich families, like stupid rich, bro. I'm talking like crazy numbers. They controlled the oil. And so Alex Hormozi is basically saying that the new oil is attention. And if you can track attention, then you're gonna make money. Like you will never not make money. Like you will have stupid possibilities to the amount of money you can make simply based on the fact that you can attract attention like that because of your brand, because of social media, because of your following, because of your subscriber count, whatever it is, right? And I think the point he was making is that it's always been that way, right? If you own the radio or you own the news channels, right? Like they get to pick and choose what gets put on their shows, right? And so you control the market. And so it's always been that way. But what has changed is the fact that now everyone has access to it, right?
Mhm.
Anyone can go download Facebook on their phone, make an account, and like become, in theory, become a hit and within a year and have like 10 million followers. So like
Mhm.
anyone now has that capability. Whereas in the early days, you had to own the radio stations, the TV channels, whatever, right? Like whatever the thing was that got media content to people, you had to own it to be a part of it and have a say. Now it's changed. Now everyone has a platform if they want to. And that's his point, is that now you have access because of social media to really generate a platform where you can capture attention, and that attention is the new oil. So the more attention you can grab and hold, the richer you'll be in theory, right? Is kind of his point. So, Drew, what are some of the, let's maybe change the conversation and see what are some of the um, maybe the caveats or some of the things that you think could be a detriment to people long term based on the fact that, this idea that attention is the new oil.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that could be detrimental to it, right? Like, I do think I mean, we've talked about this in the past. A few months ago, for the viewers who, yeah, we had a conversation offline and we talked about how much time we spent scrolling through socials, whether it was TikTok, Instagram, and it was like tracking how much time we would do it. And it would even be like, hey, in between a task, like if a meeting ended at 10:50 and I had another meeting at 11, what was I doing with those 10 minutes? Most times I'd pull up my phone and I'd scroll TikTok for 10 minutes. Right. And so it is that whole idea of attention. But I think what's happening is people are shifting their focus and they spend too much time on socials, especially like a TikTok. I think that's one detriment. But the
Mhm.
positive thing to that is that if you can capitalize on it and you understand it, you can be a direct beneficiary of that, those rewards. And so I always view it as like, what is it? Newton's second law of physics or whatever. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? And I think that depending upon what side of the game that you're on, you could either be very detrimental or you could be coming out very much on top and ahead. And I think it's just positioning yourself to try to limit the negative effects that exist or that are correlated with that, like time wasting and allowing yourself to fall into the trap of believing that everyone lives these perfect lives. We've talked about highlight reels of social media and how I just feel like everyone's social media is a highlight reel of their life. And for some people that can be ultimately detrimental because they're comparing themselves. They find themselves in this vacuum of saying, oh, well, they live this perfect life. Why can't I? And in reality, these people aren't living these perfect lives. They're just posting the good parts of their life. And so I think, when you look at those perspectives and you say, okay, I can't let the negatives that weigh and live there also, dilute the fact that there are positives and pros. That's kind of the best way to angle it, and trying to position yourself to not fall into those traps because those traps exist. I fall into them all the time. It's kind of like, let's use another example, right? Let's use the fact that McDonald's used to own Chipotle, right? So McDonald's owned two markets, the healthy market and the unhealthy market. Either way, you were giving money to McDonald's. You were spending money, whether you knew it or not. Were you giving money at Chipotle or were you giving money at McDonald's getting, a Big Mac with fries? Who knows? But that company was maximizing on both ends. And so I think it's just, if you can try to limit and try to focus on the ones that actually provide you positive value, I think you'll do very, very well.
I had no idea McDonald's owned Chipotle.
Yeah, not anymore, not anymore. But when they very first started, that was it was the healthy
Holy
alternative.
crap.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
way. I did not know that. Freaking
Hmm.
Chipotle. Speaking of social media and Chipotle, have you seen the recent, like, if you take your phone into Chipotle and act like you're taking a video, they'll give you
Video.
food?
Yeah, I have seen that. I have seen that. I want to try it out. I want to see if that works.
Oh, that's funny. So I guess in that regard, there are some benefits to social media. I have learned
Absolutely.
some things that I will say it is kind of a, take what you will from it, right? If you want, to become addicted to it and just sit there and mindlessly scroll through some bull crap videos, like that's what you're going to get from it.
Hmm.
If you use it as a tool to promote your business, that's what you're going to get from it. So you really have to be mature and disciplined when opening up those apps to be like, why am I doing this? Right? Am I
Hmm.
doing it to waste 10 minutes of my time? Or am I doing it to be proactive in some way? And I know, Drew, you and I have talked about that. I've really tried to make at least my account very just business focused because one, I don't really care to share my personal life. It's not that I'm like hiding anything. It's just like I don't feel like people really need to, see everything in my personal life every day. It's not that exciting. I can promise you. And second, I'd rather it just be business focused, right? Like if I can have another facet that's helping promote business for me, I'll do it. Um, so I don't know. I think it's really a take what you will from it. And then obviously, our guest speaker this month has really made it into something amazing. So much so, like I said at the beginning of this video, he's created multiple businesses from it, right? It's kind of one business, but there's multiple facets within his business because of his subscriber base and following that he can do because there's that much demand there. I also want to encourage you guys to think about 600,000 people. Chances are I can almost guarantee you've never seen even close to that amount of people in one place ever in your life, and you probably never will.
Hmm.
Like the most you've probably seen, what do you like stadiums hold? Like 100,000 maybe,
Yeah, you're
if
probably looking at like 50, 60,000.
yeah,
Yeah. So
if
10
that.
times that.
So 10 times that, bro. Can you even imagine? Can you even fathom? That's
Hmm.
insane. That's like the whole freaking city of Tucson in one place, just like sitting there. That's
Hmm.
insane. It's over 600,000. So that's how many subscribers Dan has. Okay. Over 600,000, I'm sure. And then that's just on one platform. So imagine all his platforms. Um, it's insane to even fathom, you know? And so I think the point is that he's been able to optimize and he's been able to make a good living for himself on the fact that there's that amount of people looking at his content on a daily basis. And so I think you have to understand if you're going to be utilizing social media in any way. Sure, I think there's ways to optimize and benefit from it where you don't need that much of a subscriber count. But if you really are going to take it to the level at which I think most people imagine when they get into social media, right? They want to do it like full time or whatever. It's like you need that much people. So my point is this. Dan has done this in a very, dude, Drew, on our last video with him, he is like, that man is like, I don't even know what the word is. What's the word? Like he's very attention to detail. He's
Hmm.
very methodical. He
Hmm.
thinks things through and has it thought out. He's a planner. He's not just like coming out here and being like, oh, let's talk about freaking so. Nah, bro, this man has it like down to a T. He has his I's dotted, his T's crossed. He knows what he's doing. And
Hmm.
there's like it's not like he just posts videos, got lucky, and now at 600,000 subs. Like he's very methodical. And so my point is like, regardless if you're shooting for 1 million subscribers or you're just shooting to make a couple more sales on your Instagram account because that's how you do business, like there is a method to it. You don't just like sit there, throw out a post, and that's that. There's like down to the caption, down to the colors, down to the seat. Like there is a method to it, and you have to learn the method.
Hmm.
So, again, regardless of what you guys are trying to get out of social media, I can guarantee you that Dan is the guy to talk to when it comes to being methodical, branding, marketing. Like he has thought through this process, and it's something you're going to have to do if you want to see results from, your social media marketing.
Absolutely. And I think one last thing to kind of hit on that as well is like, a true, I guess, example of his ability to plan and that he is a methodical thinker and plans so far in advance. Kate and I asked him to speak in like March, and he's been sending me text messages throughout this entire time since March of his presentation of like what he's thinking he's going to do and how it's working. Like he's been working on this for months, not a week, not a day, not a couple weeks, months. And so it's just like he really is a thinker. He's putting together a really awesome presentation for us. I'm really stoked about it. I think it's going to be very good. And he's going to have a unique perspective because he has, again, like Kate has said, mastered this. It's not like we're looking for someone who's doing somewhat well and they're kind of giving their 2 cents on where it's at. Like he is one of the, I would guess, one of the higher end subscribed like YouTubers in town. And we have him speaking. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, very excited, guys. So mark your calendars if you haven't already. This Friday, the 31st, 5:30 to 8:30 at the U of A Sands Club. Drew and I will be there. We'll be welcoming you in. Again, guys, if you're new to this channel or even this group, this is a group that is mainly consists of business owner type people, salespeople, um, but it's open to absolutely any and everyone. If you are just looking to connect with local people, you're invited. If you are just looking for, a night out and you want to see the Sands Club, you've never been before, and want to see if you want to become a member, you know, you're welcome as well. I mean, we literally invite any and everyone. So we are just looking for bodies to get in there and, looking to grow together. And so if that's you, if you just want to connect, it's a good time. It's free. There's no pay. And it's a very relaxed structure. So it's not super high end. You just show up, network, and meet great people and take some value with that. So again, Dan's going to be speaking for us. We're super stoked. And typically we like to end these calls with a quote, but I don't have one at the top of my head.
I
Do you
got
have?
one. I
Let's
got one.
go, Drew. Come
I got
on.
one. Here we go. All right. So this one's about branding, and it says the way the company brands itself says everything. It will ultimately decide whether a business survives. That's from Sir Richard
Mm.
Bronson, who owns all of Virgin. So Virgin Airlines, Virgin Mobile, the new Virgin cruise ship that he's got, Virgin Galactic. He owns a whole bunch of different stuff. So,
That's
but
amazing. So the brand determines whether it succeeds or fails.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think, in a solopreneur type atmosphere that we cultivate within this group. And again, like Kate said, even if you're a student at the U of A and you're thinking about potentially getting in a solopreneurship or even just want to meet people, this is a group for you. But I think as solopreneurs, I think branding, too many times people try to brand their business, and I know Cade and I have had this conversation. I think the number one place you have to start is branding yourself, brand who you are, because people don't like realtors. They like Cade. People don't like financial planners. They like Drew. So if you're going to
Mhm.
reach those audiences and captivate those audiences and maximize your potential, you have to brand yourself, not the people that are not your industry, because there's hundreds of people like you. I can guarantee it.
Right, right. And how do you brand yourself? That's something I've always struggled with in a sense, right? And I apologize for the noise behind me. But how do what are the steps that you would take to actually brand yourself? Like, what does that mean? How does someone do it?
I mean, I think that there's a whole bunch of different things. I think, one is branding yourself as an expert in a certain type of field, right? So if you are really, really good at working with small business owners and having them help with their financial planning, right? That is your brand. You are the small business owner financial planner. right? Or maybe you're really, really good at multifamily real estate and that is your brand. You know all the multifamily players in the game, right? So niching yourself, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, I've seen it work really, really well, is by appearance, right? Dan is bald with a really big beard. If Dan grew hair and he shaved his beard, it would probably throw everybody off. They'd be like, "What on earth? I know you as the guy with the beard." Another one is my old partner, Guy Welsh. If you every single day you walk by him, that man is wearing a blue blazer every single day. Doesn't matter if it's 120 degrees, doesn't matter if it's 40 degrees. He's in a blue blazer and usually a white shirt, like a white button up, jeans, and brown pant or brown shoes almost every single day. Right. That's another, so much so that it looks weird for me to see him not in that outfit. Right. And so branding yourself by appearance. I also think branding yourself within a specific organization, right? Branding the organization, but also branding yourself. So, like NGRN, for example, if you have your own networking group, your own area of what you do, your own social club, right? That's another way to brand yourself. But finding something that you can latch onto to give you content, but branding yourself, right? I think that that's kind of the best way to do it. So that would be
Um,
mine. I'd love to hear actually your answer to that question because you're a little bit more well versed in the social media game.
Dude, it's funny. I feel like I don't know the answer, to be honest with you. I watched a video a while back, the difference between branding and marketing, and I forgot what it said. But what I think of when I think of branding, I think of how do you show up? And what I mean by that is every time I see Drew, is it a different person? Do I feel like the man is bipolar and he's like mad one day, happy the next day, like hates to see me, whatever, right? And it's like, I think of like, how do you show up, right? And to go back to what you were saying, is like Guy, right? Every time I see Guy, he's not only one in that suit, he's always in a great mood. He shakes my hand, he says hi to me, he knows my name. He makes me feel good, right? And that's his brand because now when I think of Guy in my mind, that's what pops up. It's not an angry dude. It's not a guy who looks shaggy and not put together, right? And so I think how do you treat people? Do you make them feel good? Do you notice people? Do you go out of your way to help them? And I think that's brand. How do you make someone feel? How do they remember you? And if most people remember you in a good way, then you probably have a good brand.
I
That's just
like
how
that.
that's how I think of it. I don't know if it's right, but that's how I imagine it.
I like that. I like that. And I do think there are, it's those intangible feelings for sure. I definitely, because when you come up and you have a conversation with someone and it's like, oh, this person, it's usually, oh, I like him or oh, I don't like him. You're not describing what he does, what he looks like, you're not describing professionally what his job is. You're not describing if he volunteers or not. You're describing if you like him or you don't. That's usually the first way you say. So I guess that is a really true thing that I never thought of, but absolutely.
That is such a fair point.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so accurate. You know, you go to your friend, right? Like Drew or I, right? I go to you and I'm like, hey, dude, do you know XYZ? And then you say, yeah, I do. And I'm like, oh, why do you say that? Then you present a story as to why you don't like them, right? Has nothing to do with what they do, their family, their ambitions, their goals, their dreams, what their passion, like nothing except the fact that you don't like them. It's
Hmm.
interesting, though. It's interesting, very interesting.
And then the
So,
next time you go and meet that person, you're going to have your guards up because you're going to say, huh, Drew didn't like him. I like Drew. So I'm going to trust what Drew has to say.
yeah,
So I'm not going to inherently going to start by not really trusting or liking the said person. Huh. I think we're onto something.
I think I
uh,
I think that's why it's important. I mean, especially in business, treat people right because, we're what is it? bad news travels quicker than good news or something.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but Drew, can
Awesome.
you yeah, can you finish us off because my connection is terrible.
Yeah, I mean that's basically all I had to say. I appreciate you guys' time again. Just a quick recap: 5:30 to 8:30 this Friday. Dan the fireman or Daniel Tolome will be speaking. Again, it's never too late in the game to start. I want to hit on one last thing about the fact that Andrew Dobbins asked Dan to for his information to kind of learn and so he could pick his brain. These are two established people in their careers, in their industries. They're not old per se, but they are middle aged. I mean, they're in their the I guess you would say the wealth earning years. They're in their time frame where they're maximizing their earnings. They're really thinking about those next steps, retirement, all that. And we're providing a market for them to meet those people. So it's never too late. There's never too much value. You can come in 5 years out from retirement, you can come in retired if you want to, and just pick the brains of young people because who knows who you're going to meet, who knows what's going to happen, and the impacts that it will have on you. So, definitely really excited for this month. Always look forward to these monthly meetups. It's always exciting and a relatively easy one to go to because I feel like we're not salesy, we're not pushing our own businesses. We really are just here to mingle, meet, and talk to each other to see how we can help each other. So awesome. All right, Cade. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we will talk to you soon. See you Friday.
See you Friday.